Welcome, aspiring web developers and digital enthusiasts, to a thrilling journey through the fundamentals of web development. We'll be starting with the essentials, so if you're new to this, fear not. We're in this together, and by the end of this journey, you will have a stunning portfolio that reflects your creativity and newfound skills. We'll start by constructing the very foundation of your website. You'll learn the basic HTML structure and elements, document metadata, and how to link to external CSS and favicon files. We'll even spice it up with icons from the Boxicons library. We will create structured sections for the header, home, about, services, portfolio, contact, and footer. Expect to master the use of images and text to tell your story. We will be adding these social media links and icons to the contact section and a contact form. We will even include a scroll to top button, adding an extra touch of interactivity in our portfolio. And here's a secret weapon: we will be using image shortcuts to supercharge your HTML coding speed. So, are you ready to transform a blank canvas into a digital portfolio masterpiece? Let's get started. First and foremost, we require a project folder. There's no specific location where you must create it, but for the sake of simplicity, let's go ahead and create it on your desktop. Provide a name for this folder. Once that's done, import your project images folder into the newly created one. I've made all the assets used in this course available for download, so feel free to grab them and follow along. Now that the folder is set up, we can open it using Visual Studio Code. Let's begin by removing that welcome notification. I'll zoom in to ensure everyone has a clear view of the process. Throughout this course, we'll be relying on one essential extension, called Live Server. This extension enables us to launch a local development server with live reload functionality. If you haven't installed it or any related extensions yet, I strongly recommend doing so. Now that you have the extension activated, we'll start by creating our new files. Right-click on the sidebar, then choose Create New File. We'll name the first file index.html. Next, create another file named style.css. And lastly, let's create one more called script.js. Throughout this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating every shortcut I use, such as hiding the sidebar with a simple keystroke like Ctrl+B or Command+B. Let's dive into working with HTML. As I mentioned, we'll be utilizing image shortcuts, and the first example is using it to create a basic HTML document. To do that, just type an exclamation mark and you'll be presented with the emit abbreviation option. Hit enter, and you'll generate the entire HTML code structure, complete with key structural elements like head, title, body, and metadata. Now, we'll start by creating our title. Moving on, we'll link the CSS by typing link and selecting CSS. Then, we'll add the favicon, which is that small icon displayed in the browser's address bar, tabs, and bookmarks to identify the website. To do this, type link and select favicon. From there, we'll choose an image from the images folder called favicon. If we now right-click and open the document with Live Server, you should see a blank website with the specified title and favicon. To enhance the visual appeal of our site, we'll also need to incorporate some external icons. To do this, please open your preferred source for icons. In my case, I'm using Boxicons.com. Navigate to the Usage section, and scroll down to find the usage as a font. Copy the provided link. Then return to your HTML document and paste it. Next, let's bring in the fonts we'll be using. Head over to fonts.google.com. In this section, we will search for the outfit font. And select the following styles to include. There are two methods for importing these fonts, and we'll be using the second one. The first method involves using the link element in the HTML file, while the second method, which we'll use, requires pasting an import statement in the CSS file. Go ahead and copy this import statement. Now, head back to the CSS file and paste it there. With the fonts in place, we can proceed to establish some fundamental styles and behaviors for our web page. We'll start by using a universal selector, which means that any styles we define here will apply throughout the entire web page. First, we're setting the padding of all elements to 0, effectively eliminating any extra space within those elements. Similarly, we're setting the margin of all elements to 0, effectively removing any space around those elements. We're also incorporating a box sizing property to ensure that the total width and height of elements include their padding and borders, preventing elements from exceeding their designated dimensions. For the font family property, we're specifying Outfit as our preferred font. In the event that Outfit isn't available, we'll gracefully fall back to a generic sans serif font. To enhance the visual clarity of lists, we're removing list style properties, which include bullets or numbers, creating a clean appearance. Additionally, we're setting text decoration to none, removing underlines and other text decorations, ensuring a clean and unadorned text presentation. Lastly, we're introducing a nice feature for anchor links, enabling smooth scrolling behavior. This means that when users click on links that lead to different parts of the page, the transition will be smooth and visually appealing. Moving forward, we'll configure CSS variables. These variables serve as a means to define and store values that can be conveniently reused throughout our CSS code. These variables will prove invaluable, and will be consistently applied throughout this course. The first variable we're establishing is the background color. This will be a deep shade of blue. To save on time, you can proceed to set the remaining variables in a similar manner as demonstrated. So, here's a quick overview of the key design choices we've made. The portfolio we're crafting will feature specific design elements, including a background color, secondary color, text color, main color, secondary color, border color, and font sizes. To maintain adaptability to diverse devices and screen resolutions, I've opted to use rem units. Now, we'll establish a connection to the JavaScript file. To do this in our HTML, simply place the following code just before the closing /body tag. Begin by typing script, then choose script src. From here, you can select our script.js file. Great, now let's get into the body and start crafting the header. Inside the header section, we'll incorporate a link with the class logo. This link will house our logo image, sourced from the images folder, specifically the logo image. We'll include another div element with the ID set to menu icon. This div will carry the class bxbx menu, and it's worth noting that this is a menu icon sourced from Boxicons.com. To verify, you can visit Boxicons.com. Search for menu, select the icon, navigate to the fonts section, and you'll find the exact class we've utilized. Let's proceed to construct our navigation menu. Begin by creating an unordered list, giving it the class navbar. Inside this list, create a list item, and within that, insert a link. We'll link this particular one to the home section, and name it Welcome. Now, to expand our menu, simply duplicate this setup 4 more times. And make sure to rename each new item as indicated. With the menu structure in place, we're all set to check out the results in the live preview. Great, it's time to add some styling to the header. However, as a best practice, we'll kick off our styling journey with the body element. In our CSS, we'll specifically target the body element. We'll begin by setting the background color to our custom variable BG color, which you might recall we defined earlier in our custom variables. Additionally, we'll ensure the text color aligns with the text color variable. Next, we will target this header. Set the position to fixed, making it sticky. Right to 0, aligning it to the right. Top 0, aligning the header to the top. Width 100%, so that it can cover the full width of the screen. Z-index 1000, this ensures the header is placed above other elements. And the display to flex. Align items to center. Justify content, space between. This will create a space between the logo, menu icon, and the menu items. You can see that in the live preview. Next, make the background transparent. And also add some padding of 22 pixels on the top, and 16% of the element width on the left and right. Let's add one last thing. Border bottom of 1 pixel solid, which is transparent. And transition, which applies to all properties, with a duration of 0.4 seconds, and ease, which specifies a gradual transition. Now, let's proceed with styling the logo image. Take note of the distinctions in how we target elements using section and class selectors. When selecting a section, it's simply the element name without any preceding characters. On the other hand, when targeting a class, it's denoted by a period, commonly known as the full stop, before the class name. As you'll discover later, when targeting an ID, it's identified by the hash symbol at the beginning. In our current case, we're focusing on a class, and therefore, we'll use a full stop before the class name. Set its width to 50 pixels. And height to auto. Moving forward, let's style this navbar. Change its display property to flex. Next up, let's target the navigation links within the navbar. We'll set the color to the text color variable. Adjust the font size to the P font variable. And give the text a font weight of 600 for a bold appearance. For spacing and alignment, we'll add a 10 pixel padding on the top and bottom, and a 25 pixel padding on the right and left. Additionally, we'll introduce a margin of 0 on the left side and 2 pixels on the right side of the links for precise placement. Lastly, we'll include a transition for smooth and gradual property changes. Next, we will add a color change on hover. So, in the CSS color on hover, I want it to be the main color. Perfect. Next, let's target the navigation menu. As you can see, these is an ID. So in the CSS, we must start with hash, then the ID name. Set the font size to 35 pixels. Color, to the text color. Z-index, to 10,001. And the cursor, to pointer. For the time being, we will deactivate it because it is exclusively required for smaller screens. Therefore, set the display property to none. Excellent. This concludes our adjustments for the header section. Our next task is creating the home section. Create a section with class home and ID home. Inside it, add div with class home __ content. I'm using the block element modifier to name my classes. So, BEM is a naming convention for writing clean and maintainable CSS and HTML code. It is designed to make it easier to understand and manage the structure and styling of web components. Anyway, you can research more about BEM. In this div, I will add an H4 heading, which will state, "Hello there, Dan here." Below it, I will add an H1 heading, which will state what I do. Below it, we will have a link, with class btn. This link will point to the contact section of our website. The link's visible text will be get a quote. Now, let's review our current progress. Our next task is to apply styling to the section. We will set a padding of 160 pixels on the top, 16% on both the right and left sides, and 90 pixels on the bottom. Next, we will target this home. Set its height to 100 VH. Width, 100%. Position, to relative. And for the background, we'll choose a URL, navigate to the images folder, and select the background image. Change the background size to cover. Background position, center. Display, flex. Align items, center. Justify content, flex start. Next, let's style the home content. First, I'll show you the class we will be targeting. Here it is. So, in that home content class, we will specifically target the H1. Add a margin of 30 pixels on top and 0 on the bottom. Change the font size to the H1 font variable. Font weight, bold. Line height, to 1.1. Letter spacing, 2 pixels. The heading text seems quite lengthy. To improve its readability, we'll insert a line break. In the HTML, I will place a line break tag at this point. This tag serves to split the sentence onto the next line. Excellent. Next, we will apply styling to this H4 heading. Set text color to the custom variable main color. Set the font size to 24 pixels and font weight to 600. Let's continue by refining the appearance of this button. We will set its display to inline block. Next, we'll provide padding of 14 pixels on the top and bottom, and 30 pixels on the left and right sides for spacing. To achieve rounded corners, we'll apply a border radius of 0.5 rem. Font size, 17 pixels. Font weight, 500. The button's background will be assigned the value of the main color variable. Text color will be determined by the text color variable. A border of 1 pixel solid of the main color. Lastly, to ensure smooth transitions for all properties, we will set a transition duration of 0.4 seconds. Great, there's one more enhancement to make. We'll add a hover effect for the button. When hovering over the button, I will introduce a transformation by increasing the button's size by 5%. This will produce a zoom-in effect. Additionally, we will apply a horizontal translation of -5 pixels, shifting the button slightly to the left. During the hover state, we will set the background to become transparent. Finally, we'll modify the border to a 1 pixel solid line with a color defined by a custom variable, main color. This transformation will enhance the button's interactive behavior. I believe we have completed the design for the Home section. Now, let's craft the About Us section. Create a new section with the class About and the ID About. Within this section, add a div element with the class About image. Inside this div, include an image sourced from the Images folder, specifically the About image. Beneath the About image div, introduce another div with the class About__content. Within this content container, include an H2 heading that reads About Me. Following it, insert an H4 heading providing a statement about yourself. Below the H4 heading, include a paragraph describing your professional expertise and what you do. Below the paragraph, insert a button by creating a link element with the class btn. If you recall, we used this class previously. This button will serve as a link to the contact section. The button should display the text Get Started. The button style is already accounted for. I'm sure you remember us styling the Home button earlier on, so all of its styles will reflect here. Next up, let's add a JavaScript code that will add or remove the sticky header based on the user's scroll position. In the JS, we will first select the HTML header element in the document, and assign it to the variable header. We will then add an event listener to the window object that listens for the scroll event. So, when the user scrolls, the function inside the event listener will be executed. Within the event listener function, we will use the class list.toggle method to add or remove the sticky class to, or from the header element. If window.scrolly or the vertical scroll position is greater than 0, the sticky class will be added, otherwise, it will be removed. To observe this JavaScript functionality, we will style the sticky header. Apply a padding of 10 pixels on the top and bottom, and 16% on the left and right sides. Set the background to the variable bg color. Introduce a 1 pixel solid border at the bottom, colored according to the border color variable. Lastly, add a smooth transition over a duration of 0.4 seconds. Perfect. Time to style the About Me section. Set the display to grid. Add a grid template column of 2-column grid where both columns have equal width. Align items center and add a gap of 2 rem between the grid items. Next, let's target this H2 heading. Set its font size to H2 font size variable. Next, let's style the H4. Add a margin of 10 pixels on top and bottom and 0 on the right and left. Change its color to the variable main color. Font size to 20 pixels. Font weight to 600. Next up, the paragraph. Change its color to the second color variable. Font size to the p font variable. Line height of 30 pixels. And a margin on the bottom of 2 rem. Create a section with class solutions and ID solutions. Inside it, create another div with class main __ text. In this div, add a H2 heading, My Services. Below it, add a H4 heading with a brief description. After this div, create another div with class solutions __ content. Create another div with class box. In the box, I will add an image, with source from images folder, specifically day. Below it, add a H3 heading, which is one of the services I offer. After it, add a paragraph, describing the service. Duplicate this div twice. Change the image. And also change the service. Do the same to the other copy as well. Perfect. Time to style this section. And of course, we will start with this main text. We will align it to the center. For the H2 heading, set the font size to the H2 font variable. Add a margin bottom of 10 pixels.